There comes a moment in every physician's career when the weight of ancient wisdom crashes into modern understanding like waves against an unyielding shore. For Dr. Sarah Chun, that moment arrived on a Tuesday evening in October, as she stood over the bedside of a patient whose life hung in the balance. Not because of some rare disease or exotic pathogen, but because 5 simple signs had been overlooked, dismissed, ignored. The patient was a 34-year-old teacher named Michael. 3 days earlier, he had been the picture of health, standing before his classroom, inspiring young minds. Now he lay unconscious, his body ravaged by sepsis, fighting a battle that could have been prevented if only someone had remembered the profound lessons of a French chemist who lived more than a century ago. As Dr. Chun reviewed Michael's chart, her hands trembling slightly, she found herself transported back to her medical school days, when an elderly professor had spoken with reverence about Louis Pasteur. "He didn't just discover germs," the professor had whispered, his voice carrying the weight of accumulated wisdom. "He revealed to humanity the invisible war that rages within us every single day." But what signs had been missed? What whispers from the body had gone unheard? The first sign appeared exactly as Pasteur would have predicted. A subtle shift in body temperature that Michael's wife had noticed but dismissed as mere fatigue. For 3 days, she watched her husband experience what seemed like minor temperature fluctuations. Sometimes he felt warm to the touch. Other times he complained of chills that made him reach for extra blankets, even on that mild autumn day. Temperature dysregulation. This was Pasteur's first gift to modern medicine. Through his meticulous observations, he understood that the human body's thermal control system serves as our earliest warning system against invasion. When microorganisms begin their assault, the body responds not with the dramatic fever we expect, but with these subtle, almost imperceptible changes in our internal thermostat. Dr. Chen knew that most people wait for the high fever, the undeniable heat that forces them to seek medical attention. But Pasteur's legacy teaches us something far more profound. The body begins its defense long before the battle becomes obvious. These early temperature irregularities, the slight warmth that comes and goes, the chills that seem disproportionate to the weather, the way the skin feels different under a loving touch, these are not mere discomforts. They are urgent messages from a body that has detected an enemy. Michael's wife later confessed that she had attributed these temperature changes to stress from work, to the changing seasons, to anything but what they truly represented. How many of us make this same critical mistake? The second sign revealed itself in Michael's energy levels, though it manifested in a way that deceived everyone around him. Unlike the dramatic exhaustion we associate with illness, this was something far more insidious. What medical professionals now recognize as the early fatigue of systemic inflammation. For 2 days, Michael found himself needing just a little more coffee to feel alert, requiring an extra few minutes to get out of bed, feeling slightly less enthusiastic about activities he normally enjoyed. His colleagues noticed he wasn't quite his usual energetic self during faculty meetings, but they attributed it to the typical mid-semester burnout that affects all educators. This subtle energy depletion represents one of Pasteur's most crucial observations about the nature of infection. The great scientist understood that pathogens don't announce their presence with dramatic symptoms. Instead, they begin by quietly taxing the body's resources, diverting energy from normal functions to mount an immune response. The fatigue that precedes obvious illness is not the overwhelming exhaustion that forces us to bed. It's the gradual dimming of our inner light, the slow reduction in our capacity for joy, enthusiasm, and engagement with life. It's the feeling that everything requires just a little more effort than it should. Dr. Chun reflected on how many patients she had seen who described feeling off, or not quite themselves, in the days before serious illness struck. Pasteur's work reveals why this happens. The body knows about the invasion long before the mind does. The immune system begins its resource-intensive work of defense, leaving less energy available for the activities and attitudes that define our normal state of being. But there was something else, something that Michael's family noticed but couldn't quite articulate. A change in his emotional state that seemed to emerge from nowhere. The third sign appeared in Michael's mood and cognitive function, manifesting as an almost imperceptible shift in his mental clarity and emotional regulation. His wife noticed that he seemed more irritable than usual, more easily frustrated by minor inconveniences. His teenage daughter observed that her father, typically patient and understanding, had snapped at her twice over trivial matters, something so unusual that she mentioned it to her mother. More significantly, Michael himself later recalled feeling what he described as a mental fog. Not the dramatic confusion of advanced illness, but a subtle cloudiness in his thinking. He found himself reading the same paragraph twice, forgetting where he had placed his keys, struggling to remember the names of students he had taught for months. This cognitive and emotional shift represents one of Pasteur's most profound insights about the interconnected nature of physical and mental health. Through his understanding of how microorganisms affect the human system, Pasteur laid the groundwork for our modern knowledge of the gut-brain axis, the immune-brain connection, and the way inflammation influences mood and cognition. When pathogens begin their invasion, they don't simply attack isolated organs or systems. They trigger an inflammatory cascade that affects the entire body, including the brain. The subtle mood changes, the minor cognitive difficulties, the increased irritability. These are not character flaws or personality changes. They are early warning signs of a body under microbial siege. Dr. Chun had learned to listen carefully when family members reported that their loved one just hasn't seemed like themselves lately. Too often, these observations are dismissed as stress, aging, or temporary life circumstances. But Pasteur's legacy teaches us to recognize these changes as potential harbingers of something more serious brewing beneath the surface. How many relationships suffer unnecessarily because we fail to recognize that unexplained irritability or mental fog might signal the beginning of an infection? How many people blame themselves for feeling not quite right when their body is actually sending them crucial information about their health? The fourth sign manifested in Michael's sleep patterns, though not in the way most people would expect. Rather than the insomnia or excessive sleepiness commonly associated with illness, Michael experienced what sleep specialists now recognize as dysregulated sleep architecture. Subtle changes in sleep quality that leave a person feeling unrefreshed despite adequate rest. For several nights, Michael's wife noticed that he tossed and turned more than usual, though he didn't wake up completely. He began talking in his sleep, something he had never done before. Most tellingly, despite getting his usual 7 to 8 hours of sleep, he woke up feeling unrest, as if his body hadn't truly recovered during the night. This sleep disruption reveals another dimension of Pasteur's groundbreaking understanding of how microorganisms affect human physiology. The great scientist recognized that healing and immune function are intimately connected to rest and recovery. When the body detects microbial threats, it alters sleep patterns to optimize immune response, often at the cost of restorative sleep quality. Modern research has validated Pasteur's intuitions about the relationship between sleep and immunity. During the early stages of infection, the body shifts its sleep architecture to increase certain phases of deep sleep that are crucial for immune function. However, this comes at the expense of the sleep stages that provide mental and emotional restoration. The result is a person who sleeps but doesn't feel rested, who dreams but doesn't feel refreshed, who lies in bed for adequate hours but wakes up feeling as if they haven't truly slept at all. This sleep disruption often occurs days before other symptoms become apparent, serving as an early warning system that something is amiss in the body's delicate balance. Dr. Chun remembered her own experience with this phenomenon during her residency, when she noticed changes in her sleep quality during particularly stressful periods that often preceded minor illnesses. At the time, she had attributed these sleep disturbances to stress and overwork. Now she understood them as her body's early warning system, alerting her to pay attention to her health before more serious symptoms developed. But it was the fifth sign that proved most elusive and most crucial. The sign that, had it been recognized, might have prevented Michael's current crisis entirely. The fifth and most subtle sign appeared in Michael's digestive system, manifesting not as the dramatic nausea or abdominal pain we associate with gastrointestinal illness, but as almost imperceptible changes in appetite, digestion, and gut comfort that most people dismiss as insignificant. Michael's wife later recalled that her husband had seemed less interested in his favorite foods over the past few days. Not nauseated, not unable to eat, but simply less enthusiastic about meals that normally brought him pleasure. He had mentioned once that food didn't taste quite right, though he couldn't specify what was different. He had also complained mildly of feeling slightly bloated after eating, though his portion sizes hadn't changed. These seemingly minor digestive changes represent perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of Pasteur's understanding of human health. The great scientist recognized that the gut serves as humanity's first line of defense against microbial invasion, and that subtle changes in digestive function often signal the beginning of systemic health challenges. Modern medicine has validated Pasteur's insights with our understanding of the gut microbiome, the enteric nervous system, and the gut immune axis. We now know that approximately 70% of the body's immune system is located in the digestive tract, making gut health intimately connected to overall immune function. When pathogenic microorganisms begin to establish themselves in the body, they often first encounter resistance in the digestive system. This early skirmish manifests as subtle changes in appetite, taste perception, and digestive comfort. Changes so mild that they're easily attributed to stress, dietary choices, or temporary lifestyle factors. The loss of enthusiasm for favorite foods, the slight changes in taste perception, the mild digestive discomfort that seems to have no obvious cause. These are not mere inconveniences. They are messages from the body's most sophisticated early warning system, alerting us that our microbial balance may be shifting in dangerous directions. Dr. Chun stood by Michael's bedside, watching the monitors that tracked his vital signs as his body fought the septic infection that had overwhelmed his system. She couldn't help but wonder how different this story might have been if someone, Michael himself, his family, even his primary care physician, had recognized these 5 subtle signs for what they truly were. The tragedy wasn't just Michael's current condition, serious though it was. The tragedy was that this crisis had been entirely preventable. Every one of these early signs had appeared in sequence, exactly as Pasteur's work would have predicted, providing multiple opportunities for early intervention that could have prevented this life-threatening situation. But there was hope in this story. Hope that emerged from the very principles that Pasteur had established more than a century ago. Understanding these 5 early signs of infection, temperature dysregulation, subtle energy depletion, mood and cognitive changes, sleep quality disruption, and digestive system shifts, provides each of us with the knowledge to protect ourselves and our loved ones. The key lies not in becoming hypervigilant about every minor bodily change, but in developing what Pasteur himself possessed: a deep respect for the body's wisdom and an understanding that our physical form is constantly communicating with us about our health status. When we learn to listen to these early whispers, we can often prevent them from becoming life-threatening shouts. Dr. Chun made a decision that night, standing beside Michael's bed. She would honor Pasteur's legacy not just by treating advanced disease, but by teaching others to recognize these early warning signs. She would help people understand that their bodies are not mysterious, unpredictable entities, but rather sophisticated early warning systems that, when properly understood, can guide us toward health and away from serious illness. Michael's story had a hopeful ending. With aggressive treatment and the resilience of a body that was fundamentally healthy, he recovered fully from his septic episode. But more importantly, his experience became a teaching moment for everyone who heard it. His wife learned to trust her observations about subtle health changes. His colleagues began paying attention to early signs of fatigue and mood changes that might signal developing illness. His teenage daughter developed a deeper appreciation for the wisdom of the human body and the importance of listening to its signals. The profound truth that every physician learns, the secret that Pasteur revealed to humanity, is that our bodies are constantly working to protect us. They send us messages, signals, warnings, and guidance every single day. The tragedy is not that these signs are difficult to recognize. It's that we've forgotten how to listen. Temperature fluctuations that seem too mild to matter. Energy changes that we attribute to stress or aging. Mood and cognitive shifts that we dismiss as temporary. Sleep changes that we accept as normal. Digestive modifications that we ignore as insignificant. These are not random occurrences or inevitable aspects of modern life. They are our body's sophisticated early warning system, refined through millions of years of evolution and illuminated through the brilliant observations of scientists like Louis Pasteur. The choice is ours. We can continue to ignore these early whispers and wait for the dramatic symptoms that force us to seek emergency care. Or we can honor the wisdom of our bodies and the legacy of great scientists by learning to recognize and respond to these early signs of infection before they become life-threatening crises. In the end, this is what separates those who merely survive from those who truly thrive. The ability to listen to the profound wisdom that our bodies offer us every single day, and the courage to act on that wisdom before crisis forces our hand. This is Pasteur's greatest gift to humanity. Not just the understanding of germs and disease, but the recognition that our bodies are our greatest allies in the pursuit of health and longevity. The signs are there. The wisdom is available. The choice is ours to make.